Hey all, welcome back for another wild ride on NuclearRevenge. We've got 3 mind-blowing stories just for you today. If you're into this kind of stuff, hit that like button and subscribe to make this channel even better. This first story's titled The Neighbor Who Stole and Smiled. Some betrayals don't come with noise. No glass breaking, no sirens, just silence. A stillness so perfect, so practiced, that you almost doubt your own gut. Tom moved in next door 2 years ago. Single guy, late 30s, a dog named Rocco. He was the kind of man who kept his boots clean and his opinions vague. If he had a past, he never talked about it. Said he worked in real estate here and there, and that he liked the quiet. I didn't think much of him at first. He kept his lawn short, nodded whenever we passed each other, helped carry our garbage cans up after a storm one time. My wife said he seemed respectful. My son thought his dog was cool, and I just thought he was harmless. I didn't realize then that I'd let a vulture perch that close to my life. The break-in happened on a Thursday. I remember that because we'd gone out for dinner, me, my wife, and our son for his 9th birthday. Nothing fancy, just pizza and arcade games. I remember thinking that maybe next year I'd plan something bigger, maybe a backyard party, balloons, neighbors, even. When we got home, the back door was open, not broken, not kicked in, just open. We walked in and everything looked fine, but the air felt wrong, hollow, like the house had been exhaled. Then we started noticing things. Drawers ajar, the jewelry box overturned, the camera bag missing, the lockbox gone. No broken locks, no mess, just clean, surgical theft. The kind that said the thief knew what to take, knew where it was, knew how long he had. I called the cops. They dusted, asked questions. But there was no sign of forced entry. Alarm system disarmed. Nothing on the outside cameras. The officer told me it looked professional. Maybe someone with a copied key. Maybe someone who had been in the house before. It didn't take long for the suspicion to settle. Tom, he'd been over a few times, always dropping by. Helped fix our fence last spring. Asked a lot of questions about security after that. Casual stuff, innocent, if you weren't looking for patterns. But now, everything felt different. I stood in my son's room that night, staring at the empty shelf where his new drone had been. We'd saved for that, his birthday gift. Gone, ripped from under our roof while we were out celebrating his life. I felt something start to boil. Not sadness. Not fear. Rage. The kind that starts in your gut and radiates out until you can feel it behind your eyes. The next day, Tom came by. I was standing in the driveway, talking to the insurance agent on the phone, and he walked over holding a coffee. Said he heard about the break-in from another neighbor. "You guys okay?" he asked. He sipped from the mug like he had all the time in the world. His tone was calm, his posture relaxed. But there was something about his eyes too steady, too flat. "Yeah," I said, forcing my voice to stay even. "We're fine." "That's just awful," he said. "What kind of person does something like that?" "Huh." He smiled. I felt my jaw tighten. My hand curled into a fist behind my back. I wanted to bury my knuckles in his teeth. Watch that coffee spill down his shirt. But I didn't move, because I needed to be sure. That weekend, we held a small birthday party for my son. Just a few family members, some friends from school. Nothing elaborate. We were trying to salvage something good from the mess. And then Tom showed up. Uninvited. Wearing that same disarming grin. Carrying a gift bag in one hand and his dog's leash in the other. "Hope it's all right I dropped in," he said. Figured the little guy could use a pick-me-up. He handed over a box. I knew the weight of it before my son tore the wrapping. The same damn drone that had been stolen. Same model, same color, down to the tiny scratch near the landing gear. My wife smiled politely. My son beamed. I wanted to scream. Instead, I looked Tom in the eye and said, "You really didn't have to." And he said no, but I wanted to. He deserves something nice. That was the moment I knew with absolute certainty. He did it. He robbed me, violated my home, stole from my family, and then had the audacity to show up and play the hero. He didn't just want to take. He wanted to be seen taking. That night, I sat in the dark and stared at the wall for hours. I replayed everything he'd said since he moved in. Every handshake, every joke, every fake nod of concern. And beneath all that memory was fury. A pure, seething hatred I'd never felt before in my life. The kind that doesn't fade, the kind that doesn't scream. It waits, it sharpens, it plans. Tom had no idea what he'd started. I wasn't going to the police. I wasn't writing a complaint. This wasn't about the drone, or the camera, or the jewelry. It was about principle. About the line you don't cross. About a man who mistook my silence for weakness. Tom smiled at my son like he was a good neighbor. He laughed in my backyard like nothing happened. But I was going to rip that smile off his face. And when I was done, he wouldn't just lose what he stole. He'd lose everything. After the party, something shifted in me. Before, I'd been angry. Now, I was surgical. I stopped looking at Tom like a neighbor. I started looking at him like a project, a slow dissection, a methodical unraveling. I didn't want a confrontation. I didn't want a brawl in the driveway or some screaming match over a stolen drone. I wanted something deeper. So I watched. Tom was smart, but not smarter than someone willing to go the distance. I tracked his patterns when he left, how long he was gone, which lights he left on when he went out, when he took the dog, and when he left at home. I learned his habits like a second language. And then I started pushing, not overtly, just little nudges. I made a copy of the note he left on our door a few months ago when he offered to help repair a leaky pipe and mailed it to myself with his handwriting traced over in red ink. I left the envelope open on my kitchen counter where he could see it through the window one afternoon while walking Rocco. His eyes caught it. He hesitated. Just enough. 2 days later, I used a voice changer and left an anonymous voicemail on his work line. Stop smiling. He knows. Then I waited. The first crack showed in his lawn. Tom had always kept a pristine yard, mowed twice a week, edged, watered with obsessive precision. Suddenly, he skipped a week, then another. The grass yellowed. The dog barked longer at night. He stopped jogging in the mornings. He started watching me. Every time I left the house, I could feel him at the blinds. Every time I walked to the mailbox, his curtain shifted. He was unraveling. And I wasn't even close to finished. I had a friend at the utility company. I had her flag a suspicious usage spike on Tom's water bill. He got a notice 2 weeks later, a potential leak detected. I watched him dig up his yard in a panic, searching for something that wasn't there. I scattered a few receipts in his trash, copies from pawn shops in the next town over, listing items I knew were stolen from me. Jewelry descriptions, serial numbers. He found them the next morning. That night, he didn't sleep. I saw his kitchen light flick on at 2:17 a.m. and stay on until dawn. Then I escalated. He got a letter, slipped under his door. No return address. We both know you didn't buy that drone. No threats, just the truth. Undeniable. Rotting. That week, he tried to be friendly again. Came over to check on the gutters. I smiled, thanked him, let him look me in the eyes. He was hoping to read something, hoping for confirmation that I hadn't connected the dots. But all he found was silence. Cold and readable. Intentional. And then I dropped the hammer. I left a package on his porch. A manila envelope. Inside it, a printed photo of him, in my backyard, taken from a hidden trail cam I'd mounted 2 days before the break-in. He wasn't holding anything, just standing there, smoking, watching my house. The timestamp said everything. His hands trembled when he picked it up. He glanced around, as if the trees had grown eyes. I heard his dog barking that night, wild and anxious. The next morning, his truck was gone. He disappeared for 3 days. When he came back, he looked smaller, thinner, shaved clean, eyes red. He stayed inside. I could smell the cigarettes through the fence. He stopped answering his door. Mail piled up. The neat, polished man who once smiled over shared beers now looked like a ghost wrapped in plaid. Good. Because I wasn't done, I left one last note, taped to the back of his gate where only he'd find it. There's nothing left to steal, but plenty left to lose. 2 nights later, I watched him pack the truck. He moved like a man already broken. No goodbyes, no final waves, just gone. The house stood empty for a month before a realtor put up the sign. He never told anyone what happened, because how could he? He'd bragged for months about how safe the neighborhood was, how close we were. He told people he came to my son's birthday. He posed as a friend, and I made sure that when he fell apart, no one helped him pick up the pieces. He lost his grip, his comfort, his identity, and he lost it slowly without violence. Without confrontation, just the way I planned. Because revenge isn't always loud. Sometimes it's patient, sometimes it's the quiet one next door. This next story is titled The Fake Friend Contractor. It started with drywall dust and false promises. When we moved into the neighborhood, my wife and I thought we were starting a new chapter. Fresh paint, wide street, neighbors who waved from porches. We bought the last house on the cul-de-sac cheap because it needed work, but solid bones. And the man who made us feel most welcome was Ethan. Ethan lived across the street. Contractor, big handshake, bigger stories. Told me on the first day that if I ever needed help renovating, I'm your guy, no charge for friends. And that's what he became, a friend. He helped us rip out carpet, replace tiles, spent weekends in my garage helping me learn things I'd never had to before. He drank my beer, gave my son hand-me-down toys, even fixed the wiring in our attic. For a while, it felt good, like I had someone in my corner. I didn't realize the angle he was working. One night, I came home early from work and found my wife crying in the kitchen. Said Ethan had made her uncomfortable. Told her she looked lonely when I wasn't around. She tried to brush it off. Said maybe she misunderstood, but I knew. The kind of man who smiles too big when he's got your trust. He doesn't misspeak. I confronted him. He laughed it off. Said it was a joke. Bad timing. That maybe I was overprotective. I told him to stay away. A week later, my tool shed was broken into. The week after that, my mailbox was smashed in. Then came the noise complaints, called in anonymously. Police visits. Rumors started floating about me being aggressive. That I had a temper. I caught whispers at the school drop-offs, saw the way people stopped inviting us to things. And the worst part, my wife began to doubt me. Not because she didn't believe me, but because doubt is contagious when it's carefully fed. That's when I started digging. I found out he'd been reported twice in other towns. Harassment, workplace sabotage, always just beneath the line of criminal, always clean enough to slip away. He'd done this before. Found trusting people, dug in like rot, watched them collapse from the inside. I didn't report him. I didn't confront him again. I started smiling, thanking him when he waved, offering to help when he brought something heavy home. I played the part, let him believe I was folding, let him think the game was his again. And then I rebuilt the shed. But this time, I did something special. Hidden cameras, one in the roof beam, another in a vent near the door, wired straight to a hard drive disguised as a surge protector in the garage. I baited him, left out receipts, expensive tools, easy targets, and I waited. 3 weeks later, I got my footage. Clear as day. Ethan, after dark, gloves on, crowbar in hand. I didn't call the police. I uploaded the video to a private link and mailed it to his wife, his employer, and the local hoe, along with copies of the earlier harassment claims I'd pulled from public records. By Sunday morning, his house was dark. His wife left with their daughter. His truck was gone. His clients canceled their contracts. His name was stripped from the neighborhood directory. I didn't need to see him leave, because I know what it's like to be gutted from the inside, and I wanted him to feel it fully. Because some people are stains you don't scrub out. You paint over them, then you burn the whole wall down. After Ethan left, the neighborhood buzzed for a few days, then fell silent. That's how these places work. Drama burns hot, then disappears like a match in a storm. People ask questions, but never to me. They gossiped in low tones about some misunderstanding or a family emergency. No one wanted to admit they'd let a man like that into their homes, into their kids' birthday parties, into their trusts. I let them have their silence. Me, I started renovating again. But it wasn't about home improvement anymore. Every nail I drove, every beam I sanded was a ritual, not for beauty, for reclaiming. Ethan had tried to poison the foundation of what I'd built: my marriage, my fatherhood, my place. So I made the work loud. Let the hammer echo. Let the sawdust spill into the street. I wanted every neighbor to hear it and remember. Weeks passed. The couple next door asked if I'd seen Ethan. I said, he probably needed to get away. Seemed like a man under pressure. They nodded, relieved that I wouldn't say more. But the best part of revenge isn't just the strike. It's the absence that follows. He never came back. His house sat vacant for months, the lawn growing wild, shutters hanging like loose teeth. I bought it at auction for a fraction of its worth, quiet and unchallenged. I walked into his house for the first time in daylight. Everything was still. I stood in the kitchen where I knew he'd told my wife she looked lonely. I stripped that wall down to the studs, replaced the sink, burned the cabinets in my fire pit. In the end, I gutted the entire place and turned it into a rental. But not just any rental. I put in cameras legal, visible, for security. Changed the locks to digital ones with an app. Every inch of that house now answers to me. Every tenant lives in a structure that once tried to kill my peace. Now it pays me monthly for the attempt. People still talk about Ethan sometimes. Wonder, whatever happened to that guy? I don't say much. Just funny how some people vanish when you shine a light on them. Because justice is one thing, but the kind of revenge that lasts, it builds equity. This last story is titled The Scumbag Upstairs. I never liked Dennis. Even before he screwed me, something about him rubbed me raw. The way he talked with his mouth full. The way he laughed too loud at things that weren't funny. The way he always needed to be in the middle of everything, like a tick burrowed into the flesh of any conversation. He was one of those guys who thinks he's charming because he's loud, thinks he's clever because he interrupts people. The kind of stupid, shallow parasite who takes up too much space without realizing he's sucking the oxygen out of the room. He moved into the upstairs unit a year after I bought the building. 2 flat brownstone, older structure, good bones. I lived on the first floor, rented out the top to help with the mortgage. I should have trusted my gut when he showed up to the viewing in flip-flops and a Bluetooth earpiece. But I was desperate. He paid on time. That's what I told myself. That's why I tolerated him slamming doors at midnight, blasting his idiot podcast while I was trying to work, leaving the garbage bins full because he forgot it was his week. Every little thing built on the last until I found myself fantasizing about ways to evict him that didn't involve paperwork. And then he broke in. It happened when I was out of town for a week visiting my sister in Maine. Dennis knew I was gone. I told him, asked him to keep an eye out for packages. He smiled with that stupid, toothy grin and said, "You got it, bro." I came back to find the lock on my office door picked, not broken. Picked, which meant he'd taken his sweet time. He went through everything, files, drawers, my safe, which, thankfully, wasn't touched because it's biometric, but the rest, torn apart. My computer had been booted, my browser history wiped. I checked the router. He'd connected a device to my network using the guest password I stupidly left on a magnet on the fridge. And then I checked my bookshelf. First edition Blood Meridian. Gone. The custom watch my grandfather gave me when I turned 18. Gone. The envelope of cash I kept hidden behind the insulation in the closet wall. Gone. I stood there, breathing like a bull in a cage, staring at the empty spot on the shelf where my books used to be. And in that moment, I didn't just hate Dennis. I wanted to destroy him. Not teach him a lesson, not scare him straight. I wanted to break something inside him so deeply that he'd never walk the same again. But I didn't call the cops. I watched. I installed hidden cameras, one in the basement, one in the hallway, one disguised in a fake smoke detector outside his door. I started cataloging his life. He left every Wednesday at 7:20 p.m. to go play poker with the guys. He had a thing for canned sardines and energy drinks. He microwaved them, like a scumbag. He had a habit of using my tools in the basement and returning them dirty. He wore the same cologne every damn day, cheap citrus musk that lingered in hallways like a bad decision. But most of all, he was arrogant, careless. He believed he was untouchable because he thought I was weak. So I started feeding the trap. I left things just visible enough to be tempting. Receipts for expensive gear, marked boxes labeled collectibles. And when he couldn't help himself, when he tried again, I had him. Crisp footage, clear angles, his stupid face looking directly at the lens. He'd pick the lock again. This time, he took 2 gold coins, 1 backup drive, and a signed photo. of my father from 1976. I saw him sniff it. Who the hell sniffs a photograph? That was the moment I realized this wasn't just theft. This was personal. This was a man with a rotted soul getting high off the idea that he could live in my space, feed off my life, and walk around like he'd earned it. I could have turned him in, but that wasn't enough. I wanted him to suffer. I wanted him paranoid, alone, and raveling. So I hit him first where it hurt most, his ego. I created a fake email under a burner name, sent him messages pretending to be someone else in the building. Someone who had seen what he did and wanted money to keep quiet. He ignored the first one. The second one came with a blurry image him in my office. He started getting twitchy, double-checking the locks, looking up at the cameras he didn't even know were fake. Then I flooded his life. Mail he didn't remember signing up for, packages he didn't order, flyers for therapy clinics, brochures for hair loss, his name signed up for 3 different pyramid schemes. Men started showing up asking if he wanted to talk about Jesus. I told one of them to say, "God sees everything, even stolen coins." Then I sabotaged his poker night. I followed him, saw the house, waited until the game started, slashed the tires on his Civic, left a note under the windshield. Next time, we take more than rubber. He called me that night. Voice trembling. "Hey man, have you noticed anything weird lately?" I said, "Yeah, Dennis, you." He didn't reply, just hung up. The next morning, he tried to leave. He came downstairs carrying 2 duffel bags, found his car on blocks. He stood there, hands shaking, looking up at my window. I raised my coffee mug and smiled, and then he ran, left everything, didn't even come back for the deposit. I listed the apartment a week later. He sent one text, just one, "You're ***ing crazy, ***, and he was right. But the thing about crazy, it knows how to wait. Dennis disappeared like roaches do, fast, ugly, and without warning. I watched from the window as he stuffed his stupid sardine-stained duffel bags into a lift and left behind a trail of cheap cologne and cowardice. No goodbye, no confrontation, not even a petty note. He vanished like a loser who finally realized the game he was playing wasn't rigged in his favor anymore. But I wasn't finished. Because revenge, real revenge, isn't a moment. It's a legacy. The upstairs unit sat empty for 2 months. I let it, didn't list it, just let it rot. A little paint peeled, dust collected, silence filled the space. I walked up there sometimes at night, just to breathe in the emptiness he left behind. I needed to exorcise his smell, his presence, his stain. Eventually, I turned it into a storage space, but not for boxes, for reminders. I printed the photos he took, my belongings, in his hands. I mounted them in cheap black frames, hung them on the walls like a twisted gallery. I wrote the dates underneath, like they were art pieces. The watch is stolen May 3rd. Blood Meridian I sold online, May 5th. The office break I caught, June 19th. Each time I walked in there, it reminded me, trust is earned, weakness is exploited. And scumbags like Dennis don't just walk into your life, they slither. Months passed. I let the neighborhood forget him, let the dust settle, but I kept tabs. Eventually, I found him again. He was living across the river. Different building, smaller, dirtier. He wasn't doing well. Looked like hell, bloated, broken out, balding. He worked at a vape shop, part-time. Didn't say a word. I didn't show up. Instead, I printed out flyers with his face, a single sentence beneath it. This man was caught burglarizing his landlord's property multiple times. I mailed one to his new landlord, another to the vape shop, 2 more to buildings nearby. Then I waited. 1 week later, I checked the vape shop. Gone. Just like that. And you'd think I'd stop there. But the thing about rot, it spreads if you don't cut it out completely. I created a burner social account, started posting anonymously on every local renters group, every community watch board. Always the same post, warning, Dennis is a serial tenant scammer and suspected thief. Ask his former landlord. They always did, and I always answered. Now, you might think this is obsessive, excessive. You'd be right. But Dennis didn't just take things. He invaded. He reached inside my life and twisted the most private parts. And for that, he didn't just deserve to lose. He deserved to drown. The last time I saw him was a blurry security camera clip from a 7-Eleven across town. Gone. Twitchy. Buying beer and scratch tickets at to.m. alone. Which is exactly how he'll stay. Because men like Dennis liars, thieves, leeches, they don't disappear. They get erased. One petty, precise stroke at a time.